Yes, we're going to dive into the future of digitalization.
Yeah, what does that mean? I don't know. Okay, so this is something that we kind of worked on. So real estate is about people in nice suits, dresses, bricks, and deals, right? But more and more our industry is digitalizing, so people talk about the bytes and the data. On this panel, we have many years of experience in digitalizing real estate. We have Elisa Rönkä from Switzerland. She calls herself a PropTech humanizer. I love that. Yeah. Digital transformation driver and UX enthusiast. She works for Siemens for almost 10 years. Second woman we have is Hermans. She works as a country manager at Benelux for Scrive. I heard it's also her birthday today. Is that true? So she's not gonna stay too long on the call because she's gotta go celebrate. That's what we like. I have a little confetti bomb in my chair, so I like to celebrate too. Her focus has always been on changing organizations and making an impact. Change does not have to be scary. You can call her in the middle of the night to talk about digitalizing and automating your work process in the most simple and seamless way. Not tonight though, because it's her birthday, so she's gonna be partying a little bit. Then we have Micha Reusen from the Netherlands. He works as head of sustainability and innovation at Bouwinvest for 7 years. Bouwinvest is a specialized asset management in real estate for institutional investors. And we have Edds from JLL. He's the director of innovation and is facilitating positive change in the built environment through innovation, always questioning the status quo. And finally, we have Naqash Tahir from PGIM Real Estate. He's responsible for technology strategy, digital transformation, innovation, VC investments, and PropTech for continental Europe, as well as overseeing various projects in Asia. Just a couple of things.
Wow.
Okay.
What an amazing panel, a packed panel. Great to have you with us.
Yeah, so let's just start it off. Maybe Micha, what are the opportunities for landlords, in your opinion?
Yeah, thank you. Good day, everybody. Well, what are the opportunities for landlords? I would say there are a lot of opportunities using digitalization. For example, we are working on a portfolio with innovations and seeing opportunities like combating climate change and reaching net zero carbon goals. It's necessarily that to use new technologies and digitalization to boost the energy efficiency of the assets. And the other part of the challenge and opportunity we see is that customers are raising their expectations regarding the services they want and they expect in assets. So there is an opportunity to digitalize the contracting process with tenants, and also engagement process with tenants could be enhanced using digitalization. And also on the other side, as a company itself, you could, well, it is necessary using more data. Digitalization will provide you with a lot of more data, not only financial, but even non-financial data. And we see that as an opportunity to get to better and optimizing our portfolios, and also to be more cost efficient. Yeah. Using the right platforms to get all the data together, and also to analyze that using new technologies like artificial intelligence or machine learning.
Amazing. All right, and then I'm going to throw that onto Alex. What are the opportunities for advisors, in your opinion?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. Opportunities for advisors. Well, I guess in short, massive.
Well, that was it.
Well said.
That's it. That's my answer. But I think, no, I was thinking about this. I think you can kind of loosely think about it, or I think about it in 3 ways. And they're not necessarily time bound, because I think it depends on how fastly you're moving. But, you know, short term, kind of almost some of the more immediate, obvious ones, which are probably true for most organizations, are we can just do a lot of the stuff that we do much more efficiently, you know, using better tools, robotics, and, you know, talks about data, but I think just automating a lot of what we do, and then in enhancing ultimately, you know, the value add to the client, whether that's through better reporting, slightly more dynamic ways of ingesting or you know, providing data. So I think generally just improving, you know, the way that we currently run what we do. I think sort of secondly, maybe sort of slightly more medium term, you know, doing things a bit differently would be being a bit more creative. And I think we're going to see a shift from being purely kind of transactional advisors to being a little bit more creative value add. And I think there's going to be some interesting opportunities for the advisory businesses to kind of skill up and offer greater value through the advice that they give, and maybe bringing on board new skills to do that, but also being more collaborative with clients in delivering that value. And then I think the third bucket, which is kind of bigger picture, longer term, perhaps out of the box, is what's coming left field that the digitalization of our industry is going to do to the services that are required. And I think a couple of examples which recently came out. We saw the launch of IPSX this week or last week with the first commercial office building being listed on that index. What's that going to do in terms of the need for valuation advice? Is that going to have to be dynamically running valuation models all the time? Is that going to change the way that transactions are done and the kind of supporting infrastructure that needs to happen around that kind of new asset class? So I think looking at maybe some of the new emerging possibilities, opportunities for those more forward-thinking agents. And I think one other which often is talked about is the whole concept of digital twin. I think it's still an early days technology in terms of its use case in real estate. I think our existing silos are really preventing that to be implemented at scale. Yeah. So for me, I think there's an interesting opportunity for potentially a company coming in to own a digital twin for an asset and then effectively monetizing it back to the relevant stakeholders. So things like that in terms of thinking a bit differently, thinking outside the box. What are those kind of left field things that are going to happen and disrupt our market? Clearly, there's going to be a role for either an advisor or a third party to provide value. So, yeah, hopefully that's a good answer.
That is massive.
Yeah, it is.
That is massive.
Told you.
No, but do you think? I just want a follow-up question. Do you think that this is everyone's moving at the same speed, or do you think because you're you're quite an early adopter in this area? You're quite a kind of on the edge in the good way. Do you see this everyone moving at the same speed? Because it seems to me that some people are kind of gauging this a little bit differently, and some people are going whole hog. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the obvious answer is to say, obviously, no, not everyone's moving at the same speed, and I'm sure others on the panel have something to say as well. I think my view is clearly they're going to be leaders and laggards as they are in all industries. I think there is a massive opportunity for those that take forward step and invest in the future in this space. Clearly, that comes with risks. That's not a word that is typically associated with real estate. So there is a change in mindset that's needed to happen in that space. But I think if we don't do it, someone else will. And I think fundamentally that's the question that everyone has to be faced with is it worth investing if we don't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
So we had the landlords, we had the advisors, and
okay.
now we have also an asset manager on the panel.
So Naqash, what are the opportunities for asset managers in your opinion?
Thank you for inviting me. So yeah, from our perspective, it is huge. Especially the pandemic has kind of shown us where there are gaps, and a lot of asset managers got found out. So if you look at from the deal sourcing, so how we do the deal sourcing is quite manual. How we do then after that underwriting, the decision making, how do do our kind of performance modeling, reporting, the whole kind of life cycle of the process it needs an upgrade. And not to say that there has been an improvement in this space, but I think we need to go a bit further. And now people are getting the brochures and they're typing into their kind of actual models. I think the way I see the future is we get a lot of data, so we need to make use of data, having a predictive analysis on it, and data is telling us that which sector or which space then we need to invest, and these are automatically sourced from different kind of portals, different agency websites, etc. And then there's already 60-70% work is done by looking at data, internal and also external, and looking at trends and economy and etc. Various data points, and then there's a decision made, and then the asset manager, he has to just go in and look at few of the you can say return facts there. So I believe that overall the way we look at investment now, I think it's going to completely change, and there will be some front runners, and there are some people who will be left behind and may become obsolete. So we also need to be mindful of that. There might be the possibility that there's a third player that comes in the market and with a huge tech focus, then they just completely take over the market. So we need to be aware of that. Also, I think if we look at how we manage our assets, how we run our assets, what kind of relationship we have with our clients, either they are investors or either they are our tenants. That needs to change hugely. I mean, we do reporting. I mean, you can imagine that people would be looking for live kind of update on their kind of assets on their fund, what's happening. So from quarterly to monthly to weekly to daily, we need to get there very fast. And lots into happen. And PropTech can play a huge part into that. And I think there is already happening. As Alex alluded to, data is still one of the biggest challenges we have as a real estate industry. And I believe that PropTech goes a lot way to solve that. I mean, really automating RPA, data quality checking, etc. So I mean, I can go on and on, but I think just give you it is huge from my perspective. We run I run an innovation council, and we're looking at various problem statements, and I mean, list is very long. The things we want to improve, and we want to add more into the services that we provide to our clients.
Yeah. So a lot is happening there as well,
Yeah.
obviously, and maybe also a shift in who you're hiring and getting more towards those that can handle the data, like you were talking. Okay, to Elisa. So Siemens can help a lot to enable lots of these opportunities. What is the low-hanging fruits within real estate?
Yeah, thank you. Good question. So first of all, I want to be the first one to say that digitalization in itself is not a value. So it's just an enabler to other kinds of outcomes. And I think that's where you have to start also in identifying the low-hanging fruits, that what kind of outcomes do you want to achieve. In my very simplified world, I would put that in two buckets. So either you want to optimize the building, the efficiency, whether it's in terms of assets or whether it's in terms of energy or operations, operating the building. But in terms of optimization and efficiency in the building, and low-hanging fruits, maybe building up on what Alex said on the digital twins, because that's such a hype topic, and everyone's kind of watching that space. In its simplicity, you can combine BIM data with BMS data and visualize that in order to help then to gain those operational efficiencies. So the whole big scary topic of digital twin can be simplified into the first step that actually already creates value and enables this kind of operational efficiency. So that's just one example. Mm-hmm. Then if we look at the other kind of value bucket, which is more about what's actually happening inside the building, how can you optimize and create more fluid experiences? This is where my PropTech humanizer hat goes into play, because I really believe that every building has to deserve its right to exist, and hence it can't just be about the building. It has to actually be about what happens within that building and how can you enhance that business. Whether it's a hospital, how could the building contribute to the healing process? If it's an office, how do you contribute to the productivity, and so forth. And there, the low-hanging fruits are really looking at the utilization of those spaces. So are the spaces working for the people actually, or are we just stuck in some kind of legacy structures and concepts? And then is the actual experience of the individuals within the building as optimized as possible? So do we have fluid transitions between spaces? Are we losing time in unnecessary friction points? Things like this are very much low-hanging fruits that can be looked at and solved very quickly with technology. But again, it comes down to not looking at the technology, more looking at what are the outcomes that I want to achieve? What are the first pain points that I want to just kick out from my real estate, and then move to the technology that can solve and enable that. So lots of low-hanging fruits, lots of opportunities, but you have to start somewhere.
Great. Yeah. Wow. I almost want to turn that to the rest of the group a little bit. Are there any other low-hanging fruits that you guys can think of? Alex, is there any low-hanging fruits in your industry that you can that you're tackling right now?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not going to repeat because there are loads, and I think some of the ones we've covered. But I guess just to make it practical for us, and coming back to my point before, in terms of we're an advisory firm, we handle a lot of data, we have to provide insights back to our client. A lot of that requires sort of manual process of information gathering, digesting, putting it into a format, and then pushing that out through insights. And that can take all forms, whether that's quite simplistic stuff in terms of collecting rents and the kind of invoicing or service charging and budgets and things like that, or it can be slightly more sophisticated and sort of big data capture. But I think either way, there's a fundamental process that has to happen. So we're aggressively looking at kind of how we can sort of bring in RPA to robotic process automation to kind of simplify and ultimately automate where there is a sort of repetitive process. We've done that just within one of our business lines, and there are over 200 of those processes that we could look at. So just gives you an indication of how many opportunities there are to make significant savings by just looking at what you already do. So that's an example from us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Alan has also a low-hanging fruit solution.
Yeah. First
from
off,
Scrive. Yeah.
happy birthday.
No, not again, right?
No.
I told you explicitly not to mention. But
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. It's
Yeah,
okay.
Wouter can't keep a secret, so and
Okay.
I don't listen to instructions evidently.
I will invite you for the party afterwards.
Yeah, there we go.
All you guys. No, yeah, sure. We are the low-hanging fruit, I think, being at one side of the digital twin, completely in tech, completely in the cloud, completely block technology using. We're offering e-signing, and we're in the world of identification and e-signing. But I heard a lot of good things, right? We heard landlords, we heard asset management, and all these processes that are surrounding this needs to be automated, right? So to me, digitalization has to do with behavior and with attitude. It's a change of behavior in the workplace, and it comes down to that. Yeah. Because changing this process and starting with, for example, you're improving your data quality by using e-signing or by using identification in a digital way, that's one thing, and that's really easy. But to actually get it adopted within a company and to make it integrated, fully integrated with all the other processes. I hear Alex, I hear you say 200 processes you're running and trying to digitalize, or I don't know if these are the 200, but I mean, in all of these companies, we see that. So you can start really, really easy, as Wouter said. Yes, it's really low-hanging fruit to start digitalizing this process where you need e-signing in there or identification. It can be everywhere. It can be in the customer onboarding. It can be an employee onboarding. It can be all over the place there where you need to identify somebody who needs to agree on a contract. And it's in 2 clicks away, and you can offload your data to other systems really easy. I said that now twice, but to me, it's about helping out there in these companies to actually make them adopt it, because that's what we're facing currently.
Is that the most difficult part? Because there are so many solutions, but is it the adoption within the whole company that is the most difficult part? How do you see that? Well.
Are you asking me? I mean,
yeah.
let maybe answer the audience. I don't know if you all came across these obstacles.
How do you see that, Micha? Because you're also working from Bouwinvest as Director of Sustainability and Innovation. How is it being adapted? Because you are, of course, enthusiastic, but how do you get this adopted by the whole company?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because what I see is we are building an innovation portfolio, and so we have different stages where we get innovations through. So, for example, we start with identifying, exploring the problems, and then we pilot solutions. And that's, I think, the low-hanging fruit is just also starting with testing solutions. And then the most difficult part is I think it's 2 things, is to stop during a pilot when it's not a success. So not everything needs to be a success in the end. If it's not a success, please stop your innovation, or just pivot your innovation or change. So and that's a part of the process we have also in the real estate investor. We have stable processes. We don't want to have too much risk. And I think it's an opportunity to decrease the risk of innovations, to have a good process to stop, pivot, or start pilots, and also to have a process for implementing the solution you have tested. And the first thing I always ask, if we're starting a pilot or starting a new innovation with a new PropTech company, is, okay, if this is a success, are we going to roll this out to our total portfolio or specific assets, or what are we going to do if it's a success? And then they say, well, I don't think we are going to implement that. I thought, yeah, well, why are we doing this one time then? It could be just to test something, but you need to have somebody in your company, which is very important. I'm not part of the business. I'm just a side department helping, assisting innovations in the company. In the end, I need a supporter from the business who really is convinced that the solution would solve their problem. And if they are convinced and the testing and the pilot is success, then the chance of a success for implementation will be there.
Yeah, can I maybe add to that, Micha? Because I really recognize this. I mean, what we see is that you don't only need like my sales team is focusing on decision makers all day long. But in the end, it's the users that are the most important. They need to actually be involved as from the beginning with your tests. But I also hear you saying it's, and it's a common ground. Many people tell me it's invasive, it's hard. We need a POC, we need an MVP, it's an IT project, oh my God, another one. We need an integration, that will take time, it will cost a lot of money, we probably lose all the money afterwards if we don't succeed, etc. It isn't, and that's really, I want to stress out here, it hasn't have to be that way, right? We're that far already in 2021 that we can actually do this much more or in a smoother way than there's still this image about digitalization, like, oh my God, it's IT. And it isn't. I'm not a technical person. I mean, after 20 years in IT, I might say that I know a little bit of it, but I can easily help people out, even installing it and rolling it out. But that's one point. It is not hard and invasive. And to the risk part, I want to tell you about that as well. That's really important. We see that all over the place, especially in real estate, of course, because you deal with a lot of asset management, with a lot of value in these contracts. So this solution or whatever solution should be really, really legally binding in the most secure way. Yeah, so I think that's a really good point, because that's also a restriction from time to time that need to be checked, double checked in this world.
Yeah, Naqash, how do you see that? Because starting a pilot is easy, like Micha said, but how do you really implement this within PGIM Real Estate as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, so I think as a big corporate, any pilot is not easy, right? So you have to go through a lot of red tapes to get any company in. But I mean, we have, and also other players in the market, we have, looked at our kind of processes and kind of, reduced it down so that we can do more pilots. For example, I just finished 4 pilots in Q1, right? So I'm doing 6 pilots now currently. So that means that my motto is that, if you are failing, then you're not innovating, because you are going to get something that's not going to work for you. But as Micha said, I think, or Micha, that you must realize if something's not working to switch it off. I think one of the worst things that we can do as technology people, because we brought this application into the company, we don't want it to fail. We need to success no matter what happens. What you're doing, actually, you are really creating a bigger problem by trying to force an application in the organization which is not going to work at all. So in a few years down the line, you're going to have to decommission it anyway. So the way we see it as solution, we look at a problem solution, right? That's the first thing we do. We don't look at any application out there unless we can relate back to a solution or problem that we have. So we look at the problem, we prioritize it, we look at the impact of the problem statement. If we do resolve it, or what we're gonna get, is it efficiency in the process? Is it really affecting our IRRs, or if it's affecting the valuation of the asset? So we look at really on a broader perspective, and then we prioritize it, and then we look at solutions in the space and then implement it. But that is really one side of innovation, where we're looking at internal processes, internal problems, and how you can digitalize them, how you can improve them. And then, as I think Alex in his first comment, looking for outward, like what is happening to real estate, impact of technology overall to office, retail, logistics. For example, I'm currently looking into, for example, the fundraising. So what blockchain or tokenization, unitization, whatever we call it, what impact that's going to have on fundraising and the funds within raising. So it's very important also from technology perspectives. Adoption is not just for the clients, it's also a technology, PropTech companies, they need to also have their implementation plan, and don't oversell. What happens a lot of times that we get a lot of companies, they oversell a lot. And when you put them, when you try to implement them, they're nowhere near what they promised. And of course, the adoption is going to go downward because people are expecting it to change their lives, but it's not doing even 1% of that. So I think being honest and transparent upwards and be realistic about what your solution can do or cannot do, that will also help us, people like myself and Micha, to make those informed decisions. I know there's a lot there, but yeah, this is a few things we can do to improve that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, being realistic about what the solution can and can't do, and running pilots and admitting when they, a failed experiment is a result in the end, right?
I mean, just like we have, we key takeaways from our successful pilot, what worked. We also do the same for the failed pilots, because this is as important as a success pilot, because we need to understand why didn't work, what went wrong.
Yeah.
Was it really, articulating our problem statement or scope of the problem statement, or maybe the way we ran the pilot, or maybe the people that were involved, or maybe the time of that. For example, if it's a Q4 and end of the year financial reporting, that's probably the first time for anything regarding fund operations or portfolio reporting, etc. So yeah, I mean, we do learn a lot from our failed pilot. It is not time wasted. It is actually time well spent to learn about your business and also what is working and what is not working.
So we have a lot of technologies, we have a lot of solutions, we have a lot of pilots, we have a lot of things happening. We have huge opportunities, massive chances. What are the barriers that we need to tackle to really take digitalization within real estate to the next step? What do you think, Elisa? What do we need to do?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we need to trust in the outcomes, right? So I like the idea of doing pilots, but I always, let's say, challenge organizations that if you are going to do a proof of concept, don't do a proof of concept, do a proof of value. So, I think it's this question of separating in our minds what's the technology part and what's the outcome part, and being very strong in driving those outcomes. And I think that's the biggest barrier. It's actually a mindset problem more so than a technology problem. Of course, the industry is also fragmented. Decision making is fragmented. The life cycle is certainly not helping. A lot of the costs are in the operational phase. However, decisions might be beneficial to be made already in the construction phase and aren't always made. So there are, barriers because of the nature of the industry, but I think really the biggest hurdle and barrier at the moment is this mindset. So we really need to shift the mindset out of looking at the bricks and looking at the technology, even the bytes. We need to get out of that thinking and more into kind of, well, what is the outcome, the KPI I want to drive, and then ensure that when we do that pilot, it is actually targeted towards that KPI and you have a way of measuring the success, because otherwise we end up just piloting forever and never actually scaling and actually reaping the benefits that technology can provide. So mindset shift above all.
Yeah.
Nice. Really nice.
I cannot agree more. So no discussion.
So what about for companies that are challenged in this area, companies that maybe are even a little old-fashioned? Challenging internal processes can be quite difficult. What are some things to get started for the less innovative companies? What are the first rudimentary steps, do you guys think?
Yeah, Alex, you can maybe recommend on this, because 2.5 years ago we had a first global PropTech online meeting, and you talked about PropTech, the evolution of PropTech, and that your phone was just completely overblown by all kind of PropTech solutions out there, and that they really were not listening to you, and they were not seeing what happened in 2.5 years, and how do you look back on what is changing in the industry?
Yeah, sure. And I'll try and answer the previous question as well, because they do align. I think, so 2.5 years ago, when it was like, the 5 don'ts if you're a PropTech. I think, there has been progress, and certainly I would say, for example, the pictures that I see now and the sort of quality of the solutions that I see now are far more sophisticated than they were 3 or 4 years ago. I think the understanding of the industry, the problems that we're facing, and the things that we need to solve that is deeper. We've obviously seen people go from real estate into tech to help upskill that, that side of the fence, as it were. So I would say that the seller or the solutions are becoming more sophisticated in identifying what the challenges or problems are. I think also on the flip side, I would say the audience, i.e. the customer, is getting more informed. This is not true for all, certainly, and there are those at the forefront and those that are lagging, and probably that's in answer to the first question. But I think that the ones that are leading, and what you therefore can do to upskill yourself as a customer is to bring in the skills that you need to really understand, well, what are the challenges that you face? What can technology do to help support that? And therefore go to market and find a solution that solves that problem or gives you that advantage. I think, 3 or 4 years ago, and to be honest, still largely there's a lot of kind of noise coming at you. And for the less sophisticated, or indeed those companies that don't have a resource, they're a little bit blindsided by all this tech. Which one do I pick? Yeah. It's the wrong question to ask. It's what is the thing that I need to get me to where I want to go, which is coming back to Elisa's point about outcomes. So I think, the journey that I've seen in the last few years, not only on the PropTech side, but also I think with our clients, has been moving away from we must pick a solution or let's do lots of pilots to actually, I'm going to close the door, I'm going to go internally, I'm going to go and speak to my colleagues, and I'm going to figure out A, my data, and B, what the hell we need, and then I'm going to go back out and re-engage the market. And I think we're just now starting to see those organizations sort of re-engage with a slightly more sophisticated procurement strategy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think
and then the mindset is on both sides maybe becoming more equally, because real estate people are jumping over to those technology companies, so they can also bring in the really in-depth knowledge that is really needed to create those solutions.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we recruit people from real estate, so correct.
Yeah.
It's absolutely a benefit to understand the processes, what's going on in that world, of course, but the outcome is the most important. Error reduction, fine. Efficiency, fine. That's all there. But it's in the end, it's about what are you solving, and coming back to that attitude subject where you see that, but we like what we're doing right now. So we print and we scan and we sign manually and we do all this task manually. It works, but that's always the issue with change, right? It's fine as it works right now. Yeah. But digitalization is here. It will not. It will stay. It will not go away. So.
And I think just to add to the question, the digitalization for me it's just not a implementation of technology. I believe it is a change of mindset and a change of culture. And that's why, for example, you mentioned that some of the old school companies, it's going to happen overnight, unfortunately. It's going to take time, it's going to take education, it's going to bring some people that are more, you can say, innovative, more looking into technology. So it has to start from really, I'll say top to bottom, really, where you look at digitalization is the key priority, right? I mean, I've seen in the past that you look at the risk profile or risks that a real estate company faces, you will see technology is right at the top as a disruptor. But I think it should be on the other bucket ways. It is the top priority, right, for us. So that's where that change of shift and change of mindset, we're looking at as a threat rather than opportunity. And I think as I said, is a lot more education needed internally to get people and get companies to be more digitalized.
But Naqash, some companies or some sub-segments in the real estate market are threatened because of blockchain replacing their purpose. So in the end, they will stop existing. And that's a real threat, right? So there you need a scaling up in a decent way.
So that's also when I say that innovation as a chair of Innovation Council, my actually goal is not to just look at solutions out there. My goal is to also create solutions. So I want to end up creating a blockchain platform where we could do kind of the and also the fund, digitalization, etc. You are the one should be. If you think that this is a threat, then what are you doing with it? Right? What are you doing to it? Are you waiting for threat to come and then you're going to react? So you have to be proactive and look into it, and you should be the ones creating that disruption in the market, right? Yeah. You should. That's how I see it.
Well, we're nearly going to close off this panel, but I would like, you are all front runners, of course, and we have also people that are not in the front. What kind of advice, or where do they start? How can we help them? Micha, what is your biggest advice for real estate professionals that don't see this digitalization yet coming to them?
Well, my advice would be start with people within your company who are trying to take a step ahead. So find a group of people in your company and try to start more talking about innovations which could solve problems, talk about problems you want to solve, and look for new solutions and just start proposing new solutions. That would be their start.
And what is that for you, Alex?
They can come and ask me, and they can pay me to come and tell them the answer to that. Yeah, look, fundamentally, you need to start, and I'd be very surprised if no one in the organisation anywhere has got any thoughts or ideas or championing some form of kind of digital project. You will have, I'm sure, people in the organisation that are looking at this. So it's about supporting them,
finding them,
giving them some resources, and then ultimately skilling up where you have gaps. That's the start.
Yeah. Elisa, what is your biggest advice to real estate companies from Siemens? How did they start?
So my biggest advice is to think of it as a journey. So not trying to do everything at once, digitalize everything and make everything perfect. It's a long evolution that starts somewhere. What's the biggest friction point at the moment? What's really keeping you up at night? What's not just working for you? Start with that and embark on that journey, and bit by bit, make smart decisions. Alex can help you there as well to make those along the way, so that it actually becomes a future-proof evolution and a journey. But it's a journey. It's a long-term thing. It will not happen overnight. It will not even happen within a year that everything's ready, because pace of change is fast. So think of it as a long journey. Start somewhere. Start in the stuff that keeps you up at night.
Yeah, and Ellen, what kind of people do embrace these new digitalization very fast?
That's a good question. Real estate is a little bit old-fashioned, to be honest. There's still some people really deciding slow. Realtors, we see them making more and more decisions due to Corona, the second wave. Then they were all there. They were like, we are working at a distance. It's a real problem now to send out or purchase contracts and or assignments. So that was a group that is now really changing within the real estate, and also all finance agreements. So in the asset management area, where value again is really important, and where you need to identify in the most secure way if the people at distance are really the people they say they are, by checking their passport and selfie checks and stuff like that we have is absolutely it's more in the finance area of real estate that people are starting to change. But there's a lot to gain still. So start small, start with one simple process within your organization, see how that goes, and then ramp up. And hire some millennials that might help as well.
That's a good advice as well.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap it up, I think.
I love that. Thank you so much. I think this is such a tremendous group, really impressive group. And keep showing us the way, keep championing good processes and innovative solutions, and please come back and share more with us in the future. Thank you all.
Keep pushing.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.